everyone, welcome back to the Homestead. In today's video I'm going to be talking about pregnancy and home birthing. So if that's just not something that you are interested in hearing about today, feel free to move on to another video. Over the past 4 years of vlogging here on YouTube, we've gotten quite a few questions just about natural methods for pregnancy and childbirth, from diet to home birthing, supplements to take, just lots of different questions, and I've never really addressed any of them. Not sure exactly why, except for everyone's experience is so unique. There's really no one size fits all when it comes to a natural pregnancy or a home birth. And so all that I share today is just to hopefully help encourage anyone out there who is maybe a first-time mama or perhaps has a little bit of fear of the unknown. I just want to maybe take away some of that unknown for you, because I know when I think back to my first pregnancy and childbirth experience, I didn't know much other than what the older women around me were telling me. Sometimes the information you get can be really helpful, really good, and take you on a path that's going to be just a beautiful journey for you. Sometimes you have to just let go of things that you hear or read, anything that will develop fear. Just let that go. If it's something that's unknown, it's okay. It's okay to embrace the unknown. So before I share our 7 birth stories as quickly as I can on this video, I first just wanted to answer a couple real quick questions. One about what kind of diet is good for when you're pregnant, and then the other question that comes up a lot is how to deal with morning sickness naturally when you're pregnant. So first I'll just say, as far as diet goes, everybody's different. Everyone's nutrient level needs are going to be a little bit different, but in general, a whole foods diet that is mostly organic or at least non-GMO is hopefully going to get you in the right direction. So making as much as you can from scratch, just using whole foods, will help you avoid a lot of unnecessary toxins and preservatives, chemicals, things that are just not good for you or your baby. And just get as much variety in your diet as you can. Lots of fruits and veggies, lots of really high quality proteins from like grass-fed beef, pastured chicken, pastured eggs. Make sure you get some good high quality fats. Coconut oil is a good one. Butter from grass-fed cows. Olive oil if it's a high quality extra virgin organic olive oil. And then if you can get a multivitamin that's organic whole food based to kind of help fill in any cracks that might be missing in your diet, that would be really good too. I recommend highly the Synergy company for prenatal if you don't already have a good source of prenatal multivitamin. And then as far as morning sickness goes, I would say that for me, in my experience, my first pregnancy was the worst, and with every consecutive pregnancy after that, morning sickness got better and better. And so I think that it, for me, had a lot to do with how toxic my body was. The more I was on the journey of health and healing, the less I experienced the morning sickness. And so things that helped me is to make sure that I had magnesium levels up. So I used just Ancient Minerals. It's a spray that goes on the outside of your skin for magnesium. I also would take vitamin C, extra vitamin C, also from the Synergy company, just to make sure that my body was detoxing in a healthy way. And then by the last pregnancy, if I did have any nausea at all, for me it was typically in the evening time, right around supper, not in the morning. And I just figured I needed to eat something, and usually I would just eat a little handful of nuts or something like that, and that would take the nausea right away. So do whatever you can if you're pregnant and you're having really bad nausea and morning sickness. Try and think of anything that is that your body could be having to deal with as far as toxins. Maybe you're putting some kind of lotion or soaps on your skin that is causing extra toxins to have to be dealt with. If you're eating something or drinking something that is not the best, then your body's gonna have to be dealing with that. There's just a lot going on when you've got a little one growing inside, and the easier you make it on your body to have to deal with the processes it's going through, the better. So don't stress your body out. Try and limit toxins, get lots of good clean water, and try and stick to as healthy a diet as you possibly can for the sake of your little one, and I think you'll feel a lot better too. So for me, the better my diet got and the more toxic things I got out of my life, from cleaning products to skincare products, even stress. Stress can cause a toxin overload in your body. So the more I got rid of all that stuff that wasn't healthy, wasn't good for my system, the less morning sickness and nausea I dealt with. Alright, so there's a whole lot more to say about diet and how to deal with morning sickness. I'm sure a lot of you have some good suggestions. It'd be awesome if you leave your ideas in the comments below. That way anyone, especially a new mama, someone with a first-time pregnancy, will be able to glean not just from me, but from other people down below in the comments. So please share. Alright, so I'll start with Caleb, our first child. He's now 18 years old, and when I got pregnant with him, I was a teacher at the time, 5th grade teacher, and the people that I had influencing my thoughts about labor and delivery had only experienced hospital birth. And pretty much what I heard was, you have to have an epidural. There's no way to make it through without an epidural. So I had in my mind that I was just gonna have to get an epidural. That's just how it was. That's just what I thought I had to do. So my water broke on a Friday afternoon about 3 o'clock while I was napping in bed. We went to the hospital a couple hours later. At that point I was already well on my way. And of course when you go to the hospital, they pretty much immediately hook you up to a monitor, check the baby, so they did that. So flat on my back with the monitor on, and before the monitor even came off, I think they figured I needed an IV, so they put an IV on me. So I was even more restricted, and then Caleb's heartbeat began to fluctuate a little bit, so then they put me on some oxygen. So I was just completely stuck on my back, not able to move, with cords and things running out of me all different directions. And so the pain, I was not able to deal with the pain as I should have been able to, and it was just not natural at all. So before I knew it, there was kind of talk of possible C-section, and the pain was just becoming so unbearable. So of course, when the option for the epidural was given, I said yes, I want an epidural. So turned on my side and got more, just more stuff into my body. And yes, the epidural did take that edge off the pain, but I just felt so trapped. Unable to move, unable to get up, just really trapped. So I remember what really helped me to get through the final hours of labor before Caleb was delivered was some friends came, brought some worship music, prayed over me, and that just was so amazing, so great. Thankfully, I did not have to have a C-section. I was somehow able to push Caleb out even with the epidural and not being able to feel down there, and all went well for the most part after that. And so all in all, my hospital experience that first time with Caleb was a bit traumatic, and the healing process afterward was very painful. I had no idea that having an epidural would cause me so much pain. To sit laying down, I just could not get comfortable at all. I didn't know at the time that it was the epidural that caused all that, but that was the only birth that I had an epidural with, and I never had the same kind of pain afterwards. I decided that I would rather not have an epidural for the next birth. So Joshua came next. He's our 15-year-old, and at that time, although my hospital birth wasn't that great, I had no other options. That's all I knew, and so we decided to go with another hospital birth. But the difference with Joshua is that I had my older sister there for the delivery. And Sherry, if you're watching this, thank you. I'm sure I told you this already years ago, but I was just so blessed to have my sister there. She took my birth plan, because by this time I had had one child and I had my birth plan. I knew what I wanted this time, had it all written out, and I gave that birth plan to my sister. And she was My older sister is just a fantastic woman when it comes to making sure that things go as they should go, and she was not afraid to talk to the doctors, the nurses, whoever she had to talk to make sure that I got my birth plan and I was able to experience the birth the way that I wanted to. So with Joshua, again, my water broke at home, and this time it was somewhere around 11 o'clock at night, and we got to the hospital around 1, I believe. They did not make me stay in the bed. I was able to get up and walk around a bit during the labor, and that made such a difference. So I did end up finally at the end pushing from the bed, and really it was super easy. He came out so fast, and I was blessed to be able to have him with me right away. Before the nurses took him, I got to have him first, and it just was a whole different experience, very pleasant experience. So no pain medications, no epidural, but because I was able to move around, walk around, and not just be pinned on my back with cords running everywhere, I was able to cope with the pain, and it really was not that big of a deal. And Josh ended up being our biggest baby, and no tears or anything. I was just really thankful for that labor and delivery, even though it was in the hospital. So yes, a hospital birth can be beautiful. It can be, you can experience a wonderful birth in a hospital. Just make sure you have a plan and you have somebody to help implement that plan, because you're not going to want to have to think about such things when you're in labor. All right, so moving on to Nathan. He's our 13-year-old, and we also went with another hospital birth with him. However, he was our last hospital birth, and the reason is I was tested positive for strep B, I believe it was, something that was supposed to require antibiotics. I was supposed to get antibiotics during my labor in order to make sure that he didn't get infected with the strep B. And what happened with him is my water didn't break before I went into labor. With the first two, my water broke and then labor started. With him, my water didn't break, and so I didn't really know if I was in full-on labor or not. I didn't know what that looked like. And so by the time we got to the hospital with him, I believe it was about 11:30, just before noon, and the paperwork took so long. Even though we had pre-filled out paperwork and stuff, but for some reason there was a whole bunch of extra paperwork when we got there, and I felt like he was gonna come out while we were still at the desk finishing paperwork. And we got up to the OB section, and literally I took like 5 steps into the hallway of the OB section and my water broke. Climbed into the bed for them to put the monitor on me, and the doctor said, "You're ready to push right now." So he was born like a half hour after I had stepped into the OB section. There was no time for antibiotics, and because of that, they were required to keep us in the hospital for a certain amount of time to make sure that he wasn't infected in any way. And it was terrible. I tell you, terrible. I could not sleep at all in the hospital, and we had to be in there for 2 or 3 nights. I don't remember. It was a very, very long time. You who are mamas know that when you've just given birth, you're so tired, and so nurses coming in at 3 in the morning wanting to take your weight, get you out of bed so that you can stand on a scale and give them your weight and things like that, just it was miserable. So I decided that if at all possible, I did not want to have another hospital birth. I was willing and ready to find a midwife, do something different. At that point, I wasn't sure if home birth was going to be in my future, but I just knew I didn't want to have another hospital birth. And so that was our last hospital birth. So next came Esther Pye. She's our 10-year-old, our first girl, and we were blessed to be able to find a birthing center in Alaska with incredible midwives. And so my experience with her was completely different in every way, from start to finish. My early labor hours with her, actually, Kip and I were moving from one home to another, and so we moved our bed. We were moving all of our last items into this house that his mom had purchased for us to fix up. So that's how I spent most of the early hours of labor, was moving. And by the time the pain was getting more intense, Kip and I were able to just go on a date together and walk around a bookstore, and then we just took our time, finally made it over to the birthing center, and it was very peaceful. It was like a home. We were able to have our own bedroom with full bathroom. There was a bathtub ready if I wanted to get in the water, a birthing rocking chair. It was just so comfortable, so peaceful. My water broke while I was in the water, so that was nice. But the best part of that whole delivery was being able to sit in a rocking chair. It was my first time ever sitting up to deliver. All the others in the hospital, I was laying on my back with legs up. And so I really just enjoyed being able to sit in that rocking chair. There was a little cutout section so the baby could come right out. And the midwives were just quiet and peaceful. I actually was kind of waiting for them to tell me when to push, because in the hospital they check you often, and once you get to 10 they say, okay, it's time to push. So the midwives kept watching me, and I was just rocking, and finally one of them's like, do you think you're ready to push? And I was like, I don't know. So she's like, well, let's give it a try. And of course, one push and out she came. Super easy. And Kip and I were able to just stay the night there in that comfortable little room with Esther Pie. I don't think they took Esther Pie except for to do the quick APGAR test, and that was it. The rest of the time she was just right there with us, and it was so peaceful. I slept wonderfully that night. The next morning they brought us breakfast, and then we got to just take our time, shower, whatever we wanted to do, and leave whenever we were ready to leave. It was just so wonderful. Okay, so next came Joseph. He is our 7-year-old, and it was quite a hectic pregnancy with him. We were transitioning from a very large home in Alaska into a little travel trailer, and preparing to move all the way down here to Missouri. I was 8 months pregnant, I believe, when we pulled in to some friends' property. We were gonna stay with some friends until we found our property, and huge blessing. We're really thankful for them. Since we didn't have a home other than a travel trailer, I was super thankful to find a midwife who was willing to come to our travel trailer for the birth. We hardly knew her. I'm so thankful for Belinda Tucker. She was amazing. So having hardly known us, and knowing that our home was just a travel trailer, she took us on and was willing to just make it a beautiful birth for us. So actually Joshua and Joseph's births are almost identical. My water broke just before bedtime. I don't know, it was 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. And labor started very quickly thereafter. And so we called the midwife, let her know that my water had broke. She was a little over an hour away from where we were located at the time. So we just actually, Kip and I went out, and it was a beautiful night. Super cool and peaceful out, so we just spent time walking. We, out in the beautiful countryside and stars and moon. It was just really peaceful. So my whole beginning labor was just walking around with Kip, and the children were all asleep in the trailer. And so then as the labor got a little bit more intense, we went back in the trailer. Midwife showed up, and in perfect timing, she checked me. Everything was going great. And Kip had prepared a rocking chair for me, a birthing rocking chair, so we had pulled that into the trailer, and it was just very simple. I knew now what the urge to push meant, and so when it was time, just pushed, and out Joseph came without any trouble or any complication. Belinda, the midwife, was wonderful. She helped just take care of everything right there in the little tight space of our trailer. And I had set up a little spot on the couch for afterwards, so that I could just spend the night there and not have to crawl back into where our bed was. He was born about 4 o'clock in the morning, so I wasn't able to get a whole lot of sleep. But the next day I was able to rest up, and it just felt really comfortable being there in the trailer. Thankfully, because of the timing of it all, our children just slept through the whole thing, and so the next morning they got up to a new little baby, and so all went really well with that birth. I'm thankful that our first home birth in a trailer just went really smoothly. You really don't need a whole lot of space to have a baby. Just need to be in a place where you feel comfortable. All right, and so our last two births, our other two girls, Naomi, who is 4, and Abigail, who's 1.5 years now. We had both of those births here at our tiny house. It's growing, that we're adding on, so pretty soon it's not going to be a tiny house anymore. But with both of those girls, I had what's called prodromal labor, and it's just basically the more children you have, the more space there is down there, and the more apt the baby is to get into kind of a wrong position. And so with both of them, that's what happened. They got into sunny side up with Naomi, and I'm not sure what position Abby was in, but I had prodromal labor with both of them. So labor that would start and stop, and that was just very different for me. You know, 3 of the 5 of the labors I'd already had, my water broke, and then it was boom, go time, and it didn't take very long and out they came. But with prodromal labor, it was just so different. I felt like I was just never really certain when they were going to come. And so with Naomi, she ended up actually coming before the midwife arrived. So thankfully, I had a friend and neighbor here who was able to help, and Kip was here to help catch her. And the midwife did arrive shortly thereafter, and everything went really well from then on. So the recommendation I can give if you're dealing with prodromal labor is to just remember that when it is go time, it could happen very fast. And there are exercises that you can do to help spin the baby inside. That's what happened with Naomi. I knew that a certain exercise was probably going to work, so I didn't do the exercise until I kind of was ready, and I knew that Kip was going to be available, and sure enough, I did the exercise, and she was born very shortly thereafter. So with prodromal labor, do remember that even though it seems like it's never going to happen, when it does happen, it could be very fast. So Naomi's birth story actually is one of our first practice vlogs on YouTube on the Thousands of Roots channel. So if you want to hear way more details than that about her birth, you can go to that video. And then we also did a birth story for Abigail, and that's on, I believe, on the Thousands of Roots channel as well. So you can check that out if you want to hear more about her birth. She would have been born even faster, except for we had a bunch of people in our house when it was pretty much go time for me. So I actually, instead of walking around like I would normally do, when it came down to the end, I ended up sitting on a ball just to kind of hold things back a while, to slow things down a little bit. And as soon as I went in to use the restroom, because I felt like it was time, I couldn't even sit down to use the restroom because she was already coming out. And so thankfully Kip got in there just in time to catch her, and we had a midwife living on the property at the time, so she was able to help with everything afterwards. It was very special to be home again, to be in a place where I felt comfortable, to be surrounded by the family and people I knew, and to not have to be concerned about people coming to check on me all the time, make sure that all their lists were being checked off. So overall, hospital birth versus home birth, I would definitely take home birth over hospital birth. From my experience, I just really love being home. I love being in the comfort of my home. I love my own bed. I love being able to see the rest of the family interact with the newborn baby in those first moments. It just simplifies things a lot for me, especially when you have a good midwife who's able to take care of cleaning things up and doing the necessary things, because there are necessary things with a birth that have to happen. And so I would never want to do it unassisted. Those of you who do unassisted births, you're amazing. I really appreciate the midwives that I've had, and if we were to have another child, I have no idea, I'm 44, so that would be kind of a miracle, but if we were to have another child, I would definitely choose home birth again with a midwife, and just would encourage any of you out there who, if home birthing is a great big scary unknown to you, just know that it's not. It's completely natural, it's safe, it's wonderful. It might not be for everyone, but do consider it if it's something that's on your heart and that you've been thinking about. Alright, so a little bit different video this time. Hope some of you were able to be encouraged or learn something new through it. And thank you again, all of you, for just being here with us on this channel and our Thousands of Roots channel. We really appreciate you guys. Please do share any comments you have below, especially if you're a mama and you've got some ideas or recommendations for someone who's just starting out, maybe first pregnancy. Let's keep it really positive though, and not give any room for fear. And so yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I pray blessings over you and yours. And whatever you do, do it with your whole heart.